Hello, everybody. I'm Justin.
And I'm Nick. And we are FfInTheZone in the Zone.
We hope everybody had a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody.
Merry Christmas.
And now that fantasy football in most leagues is done, and if you still have another week,
congrats
you could still ask us questions on Twitter. But now we're going to do an award show. Let's start off with the biggest fantasy disappointments on the season. All right. Who do you got?
My biggest fantasy disappointment on the season was CJ Spiller. He had high expectations coming into the season. You probably drafted him as year one, and he hasn't done anything all year. He has barely even played, and when he does, he hasn't got much going.
Fred Jackson had more value than him.
Fred Jackson has much more value than him.
There was a lot of guys.
Off the waiver
CJ
wire.
Spiller, you had
Ray Rice,
who's been a solid pick the last 2 to 3 years.
But he just
always had production. This year he didn't do
bust.
anything. But my biggest fantasy disappointment is Trent Richardson. Trent Richardson, he had a great rookie year, and you had same with C.J. Spiller and Ray Rice, had high expectations and drafted him as in the first round. And when he got traded from the Browns to the Colts, we thought he would lose some value, but not that much value. The thing with the Colts was that they've been down so much in the first half. The second half, they have to abandon the run and just completely pass the whole time with Angela. I think next season they will gain a better chemistry, and I think they could, like I said, gain a better chemistry, and I think they'll be better next season, but I still don't think you could trust Trent Richardson. I think next year he could be a flex at most, and that's all you could trust him for.
Let's move on to, fantasy breakout of the year. Who do you got as your fantasy
No,
breakout?
Sean Marino. He was a guy who you really haven't heard of the last few years, but the thing with Peyton Manning is it opens holes for the whole team, for all of the running backs. No Sean, Monty Ball, and Ronnie Hillman. It opens up all the holes because you always have to stop the pass with Denver because, of course, they have Peyton, Wes Welker, Demaryius Thomas, and Julius Thomas. And they have so many weapons on offense that you can't stack the box like some teams do. And you
have to play back.
And in the we thought this would be a committee in Denver with the rookie and Hillman and everybody, but No Sean got most of the carries, and he broke out this season. And if you had him, you picked him up. He was a solid 2, low end 1 for you.
He was pretty much a low end 1 in PPR leagues pretty much every week.
Who's your breakout?
My biggest breakout this year is Ryan Matthews. This is a guy that you did not trust, and you had him on your bench when you did own him, and he was barely a flex, a low end 2 most seasons. But this season, he proved everybody wrong. He had a great season. He played like a 2 for most of the year, and I think he is a solid 2 going into next year.
Now let's move on to, the biggest waiver wire pickup of the season.
My biggest waiver wire pickup of the season is Josh Gordon. I was debating picking Julius Thomas, but even because of the tight end position is so hard.
He was also another great waiver wire pickup. So was Keenan Allen, Nick Foles, Josh Gordon, all these guys were.
But Josh Gordon just did great. He was suspended the first 2 games. He caught up to Calvin Johnson.
I think he's in the elite category now.
Top 3.
Des Bryant, Brandon Marshall, Calvin. He's definitely in the elite category now. And if you got him, props to you if you drafted him. And if you picked him up, you were set at wide receiver.
If you picked him up,
Alshon Jeffrey, also another breakout. And these guys, next year, these guys are top 10 wide receiver, Alshon Jeffrey. And I think Josh Gordon could be top 3.
If you drafted Josh Gordon late 13th, 14th round, which you probably did, or picked him up off the waiver wire, he is a solid keeper for next year.
My waiver wire pickup of the year was Nick Foles. Nick Foles, because there was a lot of quarterbacks who you had high expectations for and didn't perform like you expected, as Matt Ryan, Eli Manning, and
Andrew Luck,
Tony Romo, all these guys. And Nick Foles, he's another guy in the elite category with Peyton Manning. He threw 7 touchdowns. Who expected that?
No one.
And even Mike Vick, we thought he was going to be good. He lost his job. Nick Foles comes in
and did great.
Yeah.
He'd been a high-end 1 for most of the season.
Ridiculous.
If you picked him up, you were set.
Next year, I think top 5 quarterback?
I think he's up there with Breeze, Rodgers, Brady, Manning. And those are about the only 4 guys I'd take above him.
If you got him, you were set at quarterback. Same with Josh Gordon. if you got somebody like Matt Ryan, I'm sorry for you, but hopefully you picked up Nick Foles.
And your season was probably saved.
He's the hero of fantasy. Okay, now let's move on to Rookie of the Year. I have to say this. Eddie Lacy. Eddie Lacy is definitely Rookie of the Year, in my opinion. I'm kind of being biased here. I'm a Packer fan, but I definitely think he is Rookie of the Year because when Rodgers was hurt and everybody's stacking up the box, he still performed at a high level. This guy, whether Rodgers was there and opened up holes or Rodgers was hurt, he still found a way to get it done. This guy you probably drafted as a flex, and he definitely was a solid one for you every single week. And next year, I think he's a first-round pick.
My rookie of the year for this year is Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen been a 0-1 most of the year when he did play. He came in those first 4 weeks on fire. He cooled down for the next 2 weeks, and then he just continued scoring touchdown after touchdown after touchdown.
He was Rivers' favorite target.
High end 2, low end 1. He could be a great keeper next year if you're in a keeper league.
Who we didn't mention, Le'Veon Bell. This guy had a list Frank injury. He didn't play for the first few weeks, but he's coming on the last few weeks, and he's been hot. And I think this guy, he could be a round 2 or even slip in round 1.
I agree with you, Justin. I think he could slip in as a first rounder, as a high end 1, not a high end, a mid end 1, and I think he could. Pretty solid next year.
Now let's get to the last award here, and it's Fantasy Player of the Year. And you want the honors to do this, or
I want the honors to do it. My Fantasy Player of the Year for this year is Jamal Charles.
I agree.
Charles was a high-end one.
First-round pick next season.
I think he's the first guy going off the board.
He has to be. This guy, he
had a 5-touchdown day.
Every single week, he just performed at a high level. Adrian Peterson, of course, is Adrian Peterson, but Jamal Charles definitely passed him on the boards next year, and he, if it's a screen game or the run game, PPR machine, and even in the running game, of course, he's just so elusive, and I think he's the biggest star of that team, and definitely the biggest star on your fantasy team. And
I love Jamal
Fantasy
Charles.
Player of the Year, Jamal Charles, and that will conclude our show. Hopefully, you won your fantasy championship.
Or gonna win.
And thanks for watching. Follow us on Twitter at FfInTheZone.